Well, hello again and welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. I'm Tom. As always, I'm with my beautiful, wonderful Star Wars loving wife, Michelle.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
So good to have you with us. We are recording this episode on Sunday, May 19th, 2019. It's a fun day. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, but mainly we're talking about Star Wars Remembered, and it's getting into the good movies again, finally.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And we're looking forward. We have a guest coming on today, so that's fun and exciting.
Yeah, and we're only less than 2 weeks now till Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. That's exciting stuff right there. We'll talk more about that. Thanks for joining us today. In the future, you can find us most everywhere you can find podcasts. What we really want you to start doing is go to our website. We're starting to spruce it up a little bit, doing a few more things with it. Hopefully you like it, and you can find all our podcasts there. That is HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. You can also find us, and better yet, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Podcasts. You can also find us on Podbean, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud.
Right. And we really would appreciate if you could tell another person, a friend or family member about us, and just let us know what you think of the show.
Right. We'd really appreciate that. Telling friends, telling people you know about us and that this might be a podcast they might listen to is the best way to get the notice that we exist out there. But also, if you have the time, a rating on one of the podcast sites is great. A review is even better. We've had some great reviews over this last almost a year now. We really appreciate you all, but that is also how other people find out that this podcast is something that they might like to listen to.
Absolutely. We also love this to be an interactive podcast too. So we love to hear from you. We're very active in social media, but you can also reach out to us at HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com and let us know what you think. If you have some ideas, you'd like to see something switched up, as we always say, we really appreciate that feedback.
Right. We're very active on social media. We have a lot of fun. Our Disney family out there. We have a great time with everybody. You can find us on social media, on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and now Pinterest at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We just have a great time. We post pictures, GIFs. I never know if it's GIFs or GIFs.
Does anybody really know?
So I usually say both just to cover the bases because somebody gets angry if you just call it one or the other. So I just say both. But we have so much fun and comment on so many different things that are happening out there in the Disney world, Star Wars, Marvel, all that stuff. It's so much fun. And by the way, we are just a couple weeks from our anniversary show.
Yes.
And all of you out there, we love all of our listeners, all of our friends on social media. We would love for you to be part of our anniversary show. If you want to comment to us about what maybe your favorite moment on the show, maybe something that made you laugh, something that made you tear up, maybe your favorite episode of the show, just whatever you want to say about the show, write to us or send us a recording of something. We'll be more than willing to share that on our anniversary show because yes, it's going to be all about us, but we also want it to be all about you, our Hyperion Adventurers, our Disney family, our family out there, because you have inspired us to keep this show going and make it so fun for us week in and week out. I think you'd agree, Michelle.
Oh, absolutely. We've gotten such wonderful feedback from people. It's really touching and it's humbling. And so we do really appreciate you all. We'd like to pay homage to you and, be able to share some of your feedback on our anniversary show.
Yeah. So we've got 2 weeks to get that out. So we'll be cutting that off on at noon on June 2nd. We'll just need anything you're going to write or send in vocally or that's recorded or whatever to us. And you can send that to HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com. Or you can also find us on social media or whatever and write whatever comments you want out. I already gave them out. I'll give them again at the end of the show. Please contact us. We'd love to hear from you and have you be a part of that anniversary show.
Exactly.
So let's get on to this week's show. We've got a lot of stuff for you today, including a new way to enjoy the Lamplight Lounge at Disney California Adventure Park. An iconic Disneyland structure is back and looking magical. We'll talk about that, and we'll welcome a brand new batch of Disney legends. But let's get to our main topic of the week. Once again, we're continuing our Star Wars Remembered series, and yes, We are finally through the end of the prequels. We are doing Star Wars Episode 3, The Revenge of the Sith today.
Yeah, and actually it was released on May 19th in 2005, so 14 years ago from today.
Yeah, as we're recording this, of course, on Sunday, May 19th. So yeah, that's exciting news. And we always like to do these shows. We bring on one of our favorite Star Wars fans who has a great podcast. We bring on Robert LaBarre from the Jedi Temple Archives Podcast. I can say I'm sorry. It's a cold. I have a cold. I'm dealing with this cold. It's cold medicine. That must be what it is.
Way too much Benadryl in you.
Yes. Anyway, Rob, thanks again for joining us on the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me again.
So good. Always, Rob has such great input on all this stuff. And yeah, you really should check out his show. We'll get more into that after we get to this segment and all the ways you can find the Jedi Temple Archives podcast. But I'll just tell you, his show is fantastic and you're really going to want to check it out when you get a chance. So let's move on. Let's get to this segment here. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
The Council wants you to report on all the Chancellor's dealings.
That's treason.
We are at war, Anakin.
I need your help, son. I'm appointing you to be my personal representative on the Jedi Council.
On this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master.
What? Obi-Wan and the Council don't trust me.
Learn to know the dark side of the Force, and you will achieve a power greater than any Jedi.
You are under arrest, Chancellor.
Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? Every single Jedi is now an enemy of the Republic. Do what must be done. Do not hesitate. Show no mercy.
Who could have done this?
Twisted by the dark side, young Skywalker has become.
I feel so helpless.
Chosen one!
All right, so there it was, the trailer for Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. It's such an interesting movie, and we're now finally getting into, I think you'd all agree with me, back into Star Wars as we want Star Wars to be. Right. One of the better films, especially from the prequels, far and away, in my opinion, the best of the prequel films. I don't know if you agree with me, Michelle.
Yeah, I think I do agree with you on a lot of points of that. I mean, Episode 1 still had a lot of great things, and reinvigorating Star Wars back into our lives was good. But I agree with you, for the most part, this was the best of the three.
Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of a tale of two films for me as well, because the first half tends to suffer from some of the things that made the other two movies difficult to watch at times. But the second half of the film really kind of brings it all home. And, there's obviously we know who our favorite actors are in this particular episode, and really throughout the prequels, with, Obi-Wan being the primary one who I really feel like saved a lot of them. But, just the battle sequences in the second half of this film really kind of epitomize what I think, Jedi and Sith battle should look like.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And we'll hit on all these points as we go through the movie here and kind of in the different categories, just as we've hit all the other films, all the prequels so far to this point. But yeah, that I completely agree with both of you in the regard of this film. And I also agree with you in many regards, Michelle, to The Phantom Menace, that there were a lot of good things to like about The Phantom Menace. There were just some things that they missed as well in that. But let's get to the hype of this film as we start off. The teaser trailer debuted for this film in November of 2004. Interestingly enough, it was attached to The Incredibles. So a little Disney tie there before. Star Wars was actually a Disney property. Interesting stuff. It was also released online to AOL and StarWars.com hyperspace members. Interesting enough, AOL shows you where we were in the internet there. That's where you can find the trailer. But also interesting that this is when we started to see the proliferation of teaser trailers and trailers on the internet.
Right. Do you happen to know how they revealed the title?
I don't remember.
So it was at Comic-Con on July 24th, 2004.
Okay.
So here in San Diego.
Nice. I know there was a lot of speculation going into, including some rumors out there, and there was an April Fool's joke as to what the title might be. I didn't write the note down on what it was, but interesting stuff. So, Rob, did you remember catching the teaser trailer by any chance?
Oh yeah, I mean, I had to fire up the dial-up and get right.
You've got mail.
Right out there and check it out. Right? No, this was definitely the film that I was most excited about in terms of the prequels. Mm-hmm. It was going to kind of bring everything to a head and kind of bring us to where we start off Episode 4. So it was much anticipated. I figured there was going to be a lot more action in this particular film and kind of getting away from some of the politics, and there was just going to be a big payoff. So yeah, very excited.
And I don't think there was any doubt that it actually did that as well, Michelle.
Right. I mean, I remember a lot of the hype at the time being that this was the finale, kind of like the culmination, answering questions and things like that. So fortunately, it wasn't the finale.
Right. That's true as well. But it was interesting going into this film that we already kind of knew the outcome of it, but it was like the journey to get there. Right. We were excited to finally find the journey that actually, how did Anakin Skywalker turn into Darth Vader? Spoiler alert, turn into Darth Vader, I know, right? So very interesting. The first full trailer, by the way, debuted on the Fox network during an episode of The OC on March 10th of 2005. It was then in theaters attached to the animated movie Robots, which also featured the voice of Ewan McGregor, by the way. And on March 14th, it became available to StarWars.com hyperspace members. So again, the proliferation of the internet really starting to pick up there, and more of the trailers being allowed to by widespread audiences online. Michelle and I, we again went to a midnight. I think this was the last Star Wars film that we saw a midnight showing for. Bought the tickets early. We had to line up for it. But, the energy and excitement, again, to go see a Star Wars film was phenomenal.
Absolutely. And I think I remember this one. I think we actually knew where we were going to sit, maybe?
No, we didn't. This was, again, we had to line up. We didn't have, didn't have the reserved seating, at least not in the theaters we had gone to yet at this point. So it wasn't actually until, I don't think we saw a Star Wars film when we had reserved seating until we saw The Last Jedi.
That's true. That's true. I just remember there was something easier about it than the first one, that it wasn't, maybe because the internet was a lot more developed, that purchasing the tickets was a lot easier.
Yeah, that was for sure true. That was for sure. Rob, when did you get to see it for the first time?
I mean, I was there for opening night for this particular film. I had a group of friends and I that went and saw it together. We certainly didn't have reserved seating. We were just happy to have seating in our theater. So
you're not just sitting on the floor cross-legged. No, it was great, and we were excited to see it. So let's go through the cast of this film. We already talked a little bit about this. Ewan McGregor, of course, back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hayden Christensen, Anakin Skywalker. Natalie Portman, Senator Padme Amidala. Ian McDiarmid was Senator Palpatine. Darth Sidious. Frank Oz was Yoda. Again, most of these were many from definitely from Attack of the Clones, but many also from The Phantom Menace as well. A lot of these returning. Christopher Lee was Count Dooku, Darth Tyrannus, although he was only in it for a short amount of time. Temuera Morrison was back as all of the clones. Of course, he was Jango Fett before, who was the, basically where they got the clones from. Well, now he played all of the clones. Jimmy Smits was back as Bail Organa. Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu. Peter Mayhew finally back in Star Wars again after skipping the last couple movies because Chewbacca wasn't a part of them, but he was back as Chewbacca in this one. Anthony Daniels again as 3-3PO and Kenny Baker as R2-D2. That was the main part of the cast. So great to have them all back. I think and you talked about this already, Rob, Ewan McGregor, Ian McDiarmid, definitely the highlights of the cast. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Samuel L. Jackson, I liked a little bit more in this film than a couple of the previous ones. He was a little less wooden. And I mean, definitely Ewan McGregor. It was clear the work that he put into really trying to adopt the speech patterns and the mannerisms. And in this one, he really kind of had the beard and the hair and everything going. He was really selling Obi-Wan Kenobi fully in this particular film.
Agreed with that. And Ian McDiarmid just chewed up the screen every time he was on it. You just could not keep your eyes off of him. And I want to take, just one scene in particular, and that is that scene where he's meeting with Anakin Skywalker at the Cirque du Space that they're at, and just the scene where he's talking about Darth Plagueis the Wise and telling the story. I mean, you just grip at that scene, and it's so interesting. I know you called it creepy, Michelle, but it is.
It is so, skin crawl creepy.
But it's so good at the same time.
It's amazing.
Yeah, Rob, your thoughts on that scene?
I love that. Was the Mon Calamari opera. I'm really hoping that's the new Cirque show that they're going to put into Disney Springs, because I think that'd be awesome. I mean, that particular scene, I think, was one of his best of the entire series. Probably his low point in the entire film was when Anakin and Obi-Wan and Dooku were all fighting, and he does that cringe-worthy little
I know, that's true. You're right.
I don't know how that got missed in editing, or why they thought that was going to be a big plus for the film. But that was the one time that he did something, and I'm sure he was like, I can't believe I have to do this. But he just emanates that slick, sleazy evil as he's trying to seduce Anakin, and you can tell that he's got him hook, line, and sinker.
Oh yeah,
yeah, so much. He's just reeling him in. He's got him. He can tell, and he's planning for it. I will soon have an apprentice that will be younger and much more powerful. It's so good.
He does a great job of, and we've talked about this in the past too, how he, he's building Anakin up. So Anakin, does feel that bond with him, but at the same time, he's also isolating Anakin from the rest of the Jedi and, saying, this is why you're different and this is why they're bad and you don't want to be associated with them.
Agreed. Rob?
It really kind of takes on even more import, I guess. And I'm going to say spoiler alert here, because there is some information that's been released fairly recently regarding who Anakin's father is. So anyone who doesn't want to hear that, jump ahead 10 or 15 seconds. But it was revealed that Palpatine actually was the one who manipulated the midichlorians and impregnated Shmi Skywalker. So Anakin is his son, and he is clearly trying to bring him along and groom him to be his apprentice. And he just, again, it's just that it's emanating that evil that he sells so well.
And even talks about it in that scene, and he's talking about Darth Plagueis the Wise, and that he was able to work the midichlorians to create life, and that's exactly what he does. And this is coming out of the Star Wars, I believe it was the Darth Vader comics. They're out now. That's where the story is.
Correct.
Yeah. So very interesting stuff as well. Yeah. It just lays more to the groundwork of that entire scene, but it's just so good. It's just it is arguably one of the top, 5 or 10 scenes in Star Wars history.
Sure.
Well, the other thing about that scene as well is that as he's talking about Darth Plagueis, he is clearly just sneering. He is so, disgusted with the fact that he had all this power and couldn't even save himself, and kind of, preening a little bit because he's the one that killed him, although it's never really overtly stated. But, he conveys all of those emotions so well in that scene without, ever overplaying it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, he talks about his apprentice is the one who killed him, and that he is actually the apprentice. At least that's what's been told out there, and I have no reason to believe that it's not the case that he was the apprentice that killed Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Right.
interesting stuff. So let's just get over the synopsis of this film. I'm sure most of you know it anyway, but I'm going to go through it just in case. The film begins 3 years after the onset of the Clone Wars. The Jedi Knights are spread across the galaxy, leading a massive war against the Separatists. Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi go on a daring mission to save Chancellor Palpatine, who has been captured by Count Dooku, is being held aboard a Separatist ship above Coruscant. Later, the Jedi Council dispatches Obi-Wan Kenobi to eliminate the notorious General Grievous, the leader of the Separatist army. Meanwhile, Anakin Skywalker grows close to Palpatine, the Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, and secretly a Sith Lord, not so secret, obviously, we've just talked about it, known as Darth Sidious. Their deepening friendship threatens the Jedi Order, the Republic, and Anakin's best interest. Along the path of the film, we travel to a few new planets, including Utapau and the literal hell planet that is Mustafar. I just thought the journey of this film, I know you thought that the beginning of it was a little choppy, and I do agree with you in many regards, Rob, that there's a couple of those scenes that kind of harken back to specifically Attack of the Clones, but also to the Phantom Menace a little bit. And usually those scenes have to do with whenever it's Anakin and Padme together and there's some sort of lovey-dovey supposed talk that they're trying to do. And the scene that really always gets me is the one on the balcony, where she's brushing her hair.
Hold me like you did,
yeah.
like you did in Naboo. In the Hill Country.
No.
It's just... the other thing, it's not just the Anakin and Padme scenes that get a little choppy as well. There's, some of the CGI work that they did specifically in the battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan and Count Dooku. There's a scene there where, Obi-Wan gets flung across the room and has a balcony pulled down on him. And it just, now it would be an amazing scene, but at the time, the technology they were working with, it didn't come off quite as smoothly as I think they hoped. And they just went with it. So
I feel that way with a lot of the clone scenes too, because all the clone scenes, there was never any armor that was actually built for this. No clone armor. It was all the clone scenes are CG. So and I thought they were a little herky jerky in their movements and such. I think that was where a lot of you saw that this was the early work of CG and maybe not to the level that you would hope it to be, especially now when you see films nowadays.
Right.
Yeah, there were some quirky scenes that weren't really great, but I thought, they were such a smaller part of this film that there were so many great scenes in this film that you could kind of look past. Yes, it drew back from this film and not being so great. It could have been amazing, but there were just a couple of those scenes that just were a little clunky, kind of along the lines of Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But like you're saying, overall, you can appreciate what they were bringing.
Right. And again,
and easily the best of the prequels. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And again, this is all spoilers for this movie. So if you haven't seen it, I apologize. But the other scene that really always gets to me is Padme's death scene, which just, I know you have a theory on this, Rob, and I've heard your theory many times, and we'll discuss that here in a second. But, it's just the whole, she's lost the will to live thing. It's one of the things that I really don't like about how they developed Amidala's character in this, is that she's many times a very strong person, a very strong woman, and they make her weak at the very wrong times. And the fact that she's lost the will to live, or she's dying of a broken heart, or whatever the case may be, just kind of bothers me at the end of this film.
Yeah, I agree. And especially the fact that they had her not only see the babies, but name them, and I think it would have probably been a little bit more believable had it was just that she was losing it and she wasn't even, in the moment to know what was going on. But, that much engagement that you're naming your kids, I find that really a hard sell to say. And yet she still just decided she gave up.
Now, Rob, I know you have big thoughts on that scene as well.
Yeah, I don't buy for a second that she ever died of a broken heart. I do agree that a lot of the things that they do with her in the final two films make her look less like the strong character that we expect her to be, and that she really looks to be in the Phantom Menace, and that you would expect from the mother of Princess Leia, who was certainly a feisty character in her own right. But and rewatching this film, there's specifically some scenes when Anakin is at the Jedi Temple executing Order 66 and kind of doing the purge of the Jedi Temple with the 501st. And, Natalie Portman, Padme is standing on her balcony looking across the city, and Anakin is kind of standing in the Jedi Temple looking back across at where Padme's at. And they seem to kind of be able to feel each other's emotions. There seems to be a connection there. So I'm still kind of up in the air in terms of whether it was Palpatine that was the one that actually caused her death by, siphoning off her life force to keep Vader alive, or whether he had just created that connection between them and it was actually Vader in his rage and anger and, pulling everything in so that he could stay alive to, wreak his revenge on Obi-Wan Kenobi. But to me, it seems pretty clear that Palpatine, as he masterminded so many of the other things in these films, that I believe he's the one that was causing the dreams that Anakin was having about the death of Padme, and kind of using that to generate fear and the desperation that Anakin had to try to save her. He was doing all these things to try to loop Anakin into the dark side of the Force and kind of commit him to that course of action. And, I think that be it Palpatine directly or whether it was through Anakin, that, it was basically the life force being pulled from her to keep Vader alive until he could get encased in the suit of armor and, to the point where he could sustain himself.
See, I'd like to believe that because it's preferable to it's because she died of a broken heart or lost the will to live or whatever the case may be. I just, knowing how George wrote many of these prequels, I tend to, this is kind of something that they've done after the fact, or some people believe after the fact, to kind of reconcile it within their minds. I don't necessarily believe that that's the case. I'd rather have that be the truth.
Right. And sell it in the movie that way.
Right, exactly. I do believe that there was definitely an emotional tie between Anakin and Padme, and I do sort of believe that Padme had a little bit of force wielding ability within her. Not that she is powerful enough to become a Jedi or anything like that, but that she's a little bit of a force user herself. And, of course, anybody who loves somebody deeply does have some sort of connection. And I think that comes through. And yes, you could see that. I know the scene exactly you're talking about, Rob, and I do believe they kind of felt one another at that part. I want to believe what you're saying, Rob, is the truth. I find it hard to believe that that's what George was thinking when he first made it. So.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's a lot of different theories out there. This is, the one that I tend to subscribe to. Primarily, I have a hard time picturing her dying of a broken heart. I mean, she seemed far too strong and practical to feel like there was no reason to go on if, just due to Anakin falling to the dark side. She always seemed like the person that would do whatever had to be done. I don't see the broken heart at all being the case.
Yeah.
Or losing her will to live.
Right. It would have almost been better just to say, we can't figure out what happened, and then leave that mystery to be. Was it something, like you're saying, associated with keeping Anakin alive until he could become, into his suit of armor or whatever? I think just leaving that out and leaving it a mystery might have made it a little bit easier to handle and gave some intrigue to the story, actually.
It would have perfectly been believable that she could have died in childbirth, that could happen, or it could have been perfectly believable that she was
a few minutes
choked,
before.
right? I guess that maybe they were trying to not pin it on Anakin that he killed her, but it always bothers me whenever I watch the film. But I want to get away from the negative parts of this film, because I actually believe that there's a lot of great about this film. And I'm just going to start with, and you touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the segment, Rob, is the tone of the whole second half of the film is perfect. You feel doom and gloom, and you want to talk about, we've discussed many times about how Hayden Christensen maybe didn't portray Anakin the way you want. He's a little too pouty, a little too whiny, and sometimes wooden in his performance. But I always go, whenever I watch this film, whenever I rewatch it, I go through this film just really buying into it all, his performance at the end, hoping and praying that he will not do this every single time I watch it. And I feel it. It's a weight on my shoulders every time I watch this film. I don't know what you think, honey.
Yeah, I agree. And, I really did appreciate how, some of the darkest scenes, or could have been the darkest scenes, that almost like Hitchcock, you didn't have to see it to know how bad it was. Like with the, him going to the temple and killing the younglings. You didn't have to really see it to know it was horrible. In your mind, you knew that and you felt that.
Right. Rob, your thoughts?
Just in regards to Anakin, we've talked about this so many times before, but having watched the entire Clone Wars series, again, you understand the heights to which he'd risen as a hero, but you also got to see, even more so than just in the films, the number of times where he was tempted by the dark side and kind of crossed that line, and every time it just made it a little bit easier. And even in this film, when he stops Mace Windu from killing the Emperor and, cuts off his arm and, Palpatine throws him out the window, even then, he is just disgusted with what he's done. He can't believe he's done it. He's sick to his stomach, but he's committed at that point. There's no going back from what he'd done, and it was powerful, and definitely his acting got better as the film went on.
Right. I think, I think that the way it was written, as far as the love interest with him and Padme, we've talked about it many times, that was just written clunkily, and that's part of the biggest problem of this. But I think when you look at the whole thing, I think when he was actually playing Anakin, especially in this film, that I thought he did a very good job with it. And as far as what you were just talking about, Rob, the one scene where he's on Mustafar, after he's just wiped out the separatist leaders, and he goes out kind of on the balcony there and is just looking over the literal hell that's in front of him. And he knows he's in hell, both physically and emotionally, and he's just shedding a single tear.
Right.
It has all the impact it's just a simple little scene, but it has all the impact in the world.
Right. Absolutely.
I thought that was Orlando.
only in August.
In August, right?
No, totally agree with you. And kind of to go along with that, and I, as part of my research, I did see an interview with John Williams regarding the music of this, and he agreed it was the darkest episode, and that's why he said he felt it needed to have a quality of compassion in the music. And when I heard that and then started thinking and listening to the music again, and like the scene you're just describing too, it does have that. It has that, that he has regrets, but knows he's made a commitment to this new life that he's going to take, and he feels it's for the better, but it's also one that comes at a high price.
I think throughout all the Star Wars films that John Williams can't get enough credit for setting the tone of these films, and he did it in this one as well. The music is just perfect at adding the weight to it, along with the action you're seeing on the screen. John Williams we can't talk enough about John Williams. It's just so good.
Yeah, I want to actually extend that a little bit. This was an important point that I wanted to bring up, because while we have talked numerous times, and I'm sure we will talk in the future about the fact that George Lucas struggles to write believable dialogue, especially for some of the female characters, but not just John Williams. It's not just John Williams that should get the credit for the music, because George Lucas, as a part of the prep for these films, would put in source music cues for the various scenes that would evoke the same types of feelings that he wanted to get. And he was really masterful at that. I've listened to a lot of different podcasts and coverage of the music of Star Wars, and the cues that he was picking from kind of old Hollywood and some other films very much evoke the same feelings as the ones that John Williams would then go off and write. He would write something that would be, similar and evoke those same feelings. So Lucas gets a lot of credit for how the music turned out as well. And he always said these films were meant to be silent movies, not in the sense that there was no dialogue, but that they're driven by the music, and that music really evokes what you're feeling as the audience. It kind of informs what you should be feeling. So it was really that marriage of Lucas and John Williams that made made the music in these films so incredible. And just one other thing I wanted to mention in regards to the whole situation with Anakin and Padme, when they kind of have their reunion in the Senate office building, and she, conveys to him that she's pregnant. This ties in with the music as well, because as she sits there and tells him, I'm pregnant, instead of the music kind of rising up and being joyous, it gets really dark. And so, that was super cool. And there was even, and I think if you watch, I believe it's called The Beginning, which is talking about the making of Phantom Menace. It's mentioned in there that John Williams is sitting there asking about, as he's creating some of this music, he wanted to see if Lucas wanted to have that choral element, the male chorus that they have with Palpatine's theme. And even at that point, Lucas was like, you don't know this yet, but that's actually going to bear out really well in the third film. So again, it speaks to how, Lucas had this all planned out in his mind. He knew exactly what he wanted from the music, and Williams did an amazing job of delivering that, and it really paid off in this film.
No question. I mean, really, the emotion I feel through the whole last hour, at least, of that film, it's heavy. It's really heavy. And yeah, John Williams and yes, George Lucas, they just, and again, this film was both written and directed by George, by the way. So he deserves, as much as we've bashed him on a few things, and even in this, talking about this episode on a few things, that how he's written things, he deserves much credit for making this film as good as it is and striking as much of an emotional chord as it does. So
yeah, and I think Lucas knew that writing was not his favorite part of these films. He was very good with the big picture, but some of the detail pieces and kind of somehow it came together. They were under huge pressure on every one of these films, and we'll talk about it more as we get into the original trilogy. In a lot of cases, he had his own companies and his own money on the line for the making of these films. So, he had to produce the very best film he could within the budget, within the time frame. And there's always going to be things that you wish you'd done better, and we'll see that with the original trilogy, especially, and all the changes that were made to episode 4 after the fact. That there's always things you wish you could improve.
Of course, always. We can't go without talking about the actual lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin, because in my opinion, and were there more energetic lightsaber duels? Were there emotional lightsaber duels, throughout the various Star Wars films? Yes, but this, when you put it all together, is my favorite lightsaber duel of the entire Star Wars series. I don't know what you think, Michelle.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously the one with Darth Maul in episode 1 was fabulous too. But yeah, this one definitely had a lot of emotional connection because of the two people who were actually dueling.
Rob, I don't know what you think about it.
Well, I think you do know what I think about it. No, when you think of Jedi and Sith, these are beings that have hyper fast reflexes, and certainly when you think of like Obi-Wan and Darth Vader having their battle on the Death Star, that's kind of more of a slow, drawn out battle. But the thing that made the battle between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan so great in Phantom Menace was the fact that there was that brief period of time where they just had this really fast exchange of blows. And this took that and extended it out. And, then they intercut it with the fight between Yoda and Palpatine, which, even raised the excitement level more. But, just to see these two battle-hardened heroes of the Republic going at it in a life or death situation, it was incredible. And then the culmination of it, which I know that there's a lot of people who make fun of the
high
give
ground.
up Anakin, I've got the high ground, right? But I heard something really interesting, and it was a good point, because you think back to Phantom Menace, and that's exactly the scenario that Obi-Wan was in, with Darth Maul looming above him at the rim of the pit that he had fallen down in, and he did that vaulting flip over the top of Maul and cut him in half. And so he knew exactly what Anakin was going to have to do in order to, basically be able to confront him where he was. And that's why he was prepared to actually, counter that move when it came.
I also believe in it. You know, it's really interesting throughout this whole battle, and there is so much emotion tied with it. And, you know, there are parts where I believe like neither one of them really wanted to kill the other one. I think that Anakin eventually got to that point where he was ready to do it. But I think they went through a lot of it. But you could tell at the end, Obi-Wan didn't want, he even said going in, I can't do it.
Right.
And at the end, he didn't want any part of it. That's why he took the high ground, and he's telling him, don't try it. Don't do it, you know, just surrender. And, you know, he does not want to kill Anakin, and he doesn't kill Anakin.
Right.
You know, he could have, after he chopped his legs off, he could have went down there and put him out of his misery. But
Right.
I don't think he had it in his soul and his heart to do it. He kind of figured like, okay, well, it's going to happen anyway.
Right.
But I didn't, you know, just the emotion of it all. And yes, the battle, and they're flying through hell, and just, you know, the whole cinematography of it, and then the John Williams score in the background, and it's just so weighty. And I'm sorry, that's the only word I can come with, because that's what I felt with when I was watching the film again just the other day, was I just felt so heavy on my chest and my shoulders that it's just an incredible scene.
Well, don't forget, he didn't just get both of his legs. He got his left arm as well.
That's right. He got it all. That's quite a shot that he took on him there. Wow.
Yeah.
But just interesting stuff. A couple other points from the movie that I want to point out that I actually picked up this time for the first time that I didn't notice, I don't think, ever before. And I've watched this film many times. But we'll start with just before that, when he ends up choking Padme. He reaches out with his robotic arm and does it, almost like a little bit of more of the robotic Vader version is the one that does. He doesn't do it with his human arm. He does it, you know, and I'm sure that was intentional by George or whomever decided to design that up, that was the robotic version of Vader right there that did that. Just found that interesting the first time I saw it. Also interesting, and again, you know, right at the beginning when he ousts Dooku, beheads Dooku at the beginning. You know, Palpatine's trying to tell him, look, you did the right thing. And he says, no, that's not the Jedi way. He was unarmed. He was helpless. Right. It's not the Jedi way to kill somebody. And then Palpatine kind of uses that to his benefit when Mace Windu is stopping him there at the, you know, in the throne, in the room, in the Chancellor's room. And Mace Windu realizes he needs to kill him.
Right.
Obviously, that's already in Anakin's mind that that's not the Jedi way. They've already been beating that, you know, Palpatine's been beating it into his head that the Jedi are not doing what the Jedi are supposed to do. And that kind of cinched the deal right there. I don't know what you think about that, Rob.
No, I think that's exactly what was going on. And that was certainly at the forefront of his mind. A little hypocritical of him to all of a sudden, you know, be ready to hold Mace Windu to the same standard that he himself blew right through. But really, even in the battle with Dooku, he wasn't able to best Dooku until he started drawing on his own anger and hatred. And so once again, I mean, Palpatine played it just perfectly.
And the other scene that I noticed for the first time, and even though I've seen it, but I took more interest in it, was that right before that scene when he tells Mace Windu that Palpatine is a Sith Lord, and you know he wants to accompany Windu to, you know, stop this, and Mace is like, no, I appreciate it. You know, I gained my trust by doing this. Right. Wait in the chamber, in the Jedi Temple chamber there. You know, for me, and we'll get back, you know. And he goes in there, and you see this red sunset, essentially, there, you know, which Lucas uses a lot to, you know, show the emotion of what's going on. The color of it, the red, is very part of the Sith. But also, he's in this big chamber with many chairs, and he's all alone. Again, isolating very much Anakin Skywalker in alone, even though he's kind of in touch with Padme and she could feel something was going wrong, but he's still alone in this room.
Right. Now that is a good analogy of, you know, what was going on and again, how it was bringing together that isolation and the impact it had on Anakin.
Yeah. And again, that's his biggest fear, is being alone.
Right.
You know, of losing people. And he was alone in this room, and all he could do is think about this, what's happening, and possibly losing Padme. And that's what kind of spurns him to go back
Right.
and make sure that that things go right with the Chancellor in many ways. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Rob.
Just that, for the longest time, it looked like Palpatine was trying to eliminate Padme. He was trying to kill her all the way up through the beginning of Attack of the Clones. But once he realized that there was that connection between her and Anakin, he really turned his attention to just trying to manipulate that into, create the dependency between Anakin, make him fear for Padme, and then put himself in a position where he's the only one who could potentially stave off the fate that he was seeing for her. And that's ultimately what saved Palpatine when Mace Windu had him cornered, because not only did Anakin have it stuck in his head that it's not the Jedi way, but he had a need for Palpatine. He couldn't afford to have him killed because he was afraid that would mean Padme would die. And, so Palpatine, just the master manipulator as per usual, and always had kind of an escape valve set up for him.
Right, exactly. I don't know if any of you had any other themes, any thoughts on any other scenes that were going through it. Michelle, do you have any?
No, I think you covered it. I think the thing that was most emotional driven, other than obviously the lightsaber scenes and things like that, was just how Palpatine was revealing himself, and the way they did it I just thought was brilliant. How they did that in that scene and in subsequent scenes. So
Rob, your thoughts on these scenes?
Really, the only thing that kind of got a laugh out of me was Anakin and Padme again in the Senate office building, and their big reunion there with all the hugging and kissing. All I could think was they would never make it in Washington D.C. I mean, you could not pick a worse place to to have this public display of affection when you're supposedly trying to hide the fact that you have this relationship. So I thought that was kind of a discordant moment, but
agreed.
And I love the scene, when Obi-Wan is recalibrating the beacon in the Jedi Temple, and then ends up seeing the security recording.
Right.
I thought that was great. And again, the battle between Obi-Wan and Grievous is another one of those things where as much weight as it tends to have, you understand that this is a major player on the Separatist side. But again, having seen more of General Grievous through the Clone Wars and seeing how effective he was against the Jedi, and the fact that he specialized in killing Jedi and taking their lightsabers as trophies, for Anakin to face him down one-on-one and basically own him pretty easily, and then chase him down and finish him off. That was pretty powerful. Right.
Yeah. I mean, again, we've talked about this many times, both on this podcast and on your podcast as well, Rob. If you haven't seen the Clone Wars, you're doing yourself, as a Star Wars fan, you're doing yourself a disservice by not checking it out. I know it's a little difficult right now. It's not readily available, but once it gets back up on Disney Plus coming up here in November, highly recommend you check out this series, because it gives you so much more depth into Obi-Wan and Anakin and Padme, for that matter, as a strong female character within the Star Wars universe. There is so much more depth into these prequels and some of these other characters, Count Dooku and General Grievous, and many, many more characters that you just don't get the experience with in the films. And I know, Rob, you agree with this. You just can't recommend that series enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's really the holy trinity in Anakin's life of the three women that had the biggest impact on him. And in the movies, you only see his mother, Shmi Skywalker, and you see Padme, but Ahsoka, who you meet in the Clone Wars and who's going to be back in the Clone Wars Season 7, is another huge facet to what ultimately led to his fall. So definitely go out there and check it out.
Definitely. So let's move on to, we'll just get a little bit more with this film. The critical reception for it was pretty good, considering what it'd been for the last couple films that had come out as the prequels. Rotten Tomatoes gave the film an approval rating of 80% based on 293 reviews. Got a 7.28 out of 10 average rating. Let's see, audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film on average an A- grade from an A+ to an F score. This was interesting. I found, and this is a little bit of a reach for me, but interesting enough. A.O. Scott of the New York Times concluded that it was the best of the 4 episodes Mr. Lucas has directed, and equal to Empire Strikes Back, the richest and most challenging movie in the cycle. I don't know about that, but I do believe it was really, really good. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 3.5 out of 4 stars, writing, "If Lucas got bogged down in solemnity, in theory in episode 2, Attack of the Clones, the Force is in a jollier mood this time." I don't know if jolly is the way I would put this film, but and Revenge of the Sith is great entertainment. So the reviews much more glowing for this film, and I think deservedly so. I think you'd agree, Michelle.
Absolutely, yeah. And for the things that we just talked about, and focusing on the things that were really impactful in the movie versus some of the things that we could either criticize or laugh at even, but yeah.
So the film went on to reach an estimated 16.91 million from 2,900 midnight screenings in North America in its release. That's pretty good for a first night, especially when this came out. In total, it earned a record $50 million on its opening day. With only the May 19th earnings, the film broke 4 box office records. Midnight screenings gross previously held by Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Opening day gross for Spider-Man 2. Single day gross for Shrek 2. And Thursday gross for The Matrix Reloaded. And worldwide gross eventually reached $849 million. Making it the second most financial film in 2005, financially successful film in 2005, only behind Harry Potter and The Goblet of Fire. So did really well in the box office, and I think we'd all agree why that was, because it was a good film and worthy of seeing many times, where some of these, Attack of the Clones, yes, we saw it multiple times just because we're Star Wars fanatics. But this one, there was so much depth and insight to it that I think it was worthy of watching it and seeing it a few times. And like I said just moments ago, I've seen it I don't know how many times. I'm still picking things out of it that I haven't seen before.
Right. And like Rob said earlier, getting past the beginning clunky parts to the more intense storyline was amazing.
Rob, what's your thoughts?
One of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand is that at the beginning of this film, when Obi-Wan and Anakin are flying into the battle over Coruscant to rescue the Chancellor, they're actually coming from a battle that was known as the Siege of Mandalore, which, again, I think will factor into Clone Wars. But it was a lot of fun. It was the culmination of everything that I was hoping to see. And, it gives you that great backstory for not just the fall of Anakin Skywalker and the beginning of his reign as Darth Vader, but also just how tragic the whole story was. I mean, you knew that it was a tragic story, but to really see it evolve and come to its fruition was pretty hard to watch.
Right.
Completely agree. Like I said, I can't say how much the weight of this film was on me watching it again and watching it even the first few times. It's a very heavy Star Wars film. It's a tough one to take, but it's so good because of that, because of the fact that it gives you those emotions to me that, that's why it resonates so much with me as one of the best Star Wars films that have been released.
Yeah, and I agree. You do keep wanting him to make a different decision.
Right. Every single time.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's not going to kill the younglings this time. It's not going to happen. No, every single time he does it. It's crazy. So let's even though this movie, as we just talked about, wasn't maybe as fun as you wanted to be, there's still fun facts behind this movie. I think we've probably had a couple. Michelle, do you have any fun facts that you found out about this movie?
Yeah, a couple fun facts. Well, one is the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
That they were saying we're going to throw everything into this, including the kitchen sink. So in that initial battle scene, there actually is a kitchen sink.
Yes. Industrial Light and Magic added a kitchen sink in there, which is that is funny. That's such a hilarious story to me.
Right. I don't know if this is necessarily a fun fact or whatever, but that Lucas, who did work with Coppola on The Godfather, admits that in this movie he did try to have some homage to The Godfather, specifically in the formation of the Empire sequence. It parallels to The Godfather, where during the christening, where Michael Corleone. I don't know why I always have a problem with that. He's
got it.
Oh, thanks. He's presiding over the christening, like the next generation of the family, which is intercut with shots of his enforcers assassinating the mob leaders. So, it is kind of a nice way that it tied in as an homage to such a classic movie as The Godfather.
Makes sense. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Rob, do you have any facts about the movie?
Yeah, interestingly enough, Utapau, which is where Obi-Wan tracks down Grievous, Utapau was originally going to be the name for Tatooine in the original making of the Star Wars film. So that kind of made its way back into Star Wars canon via that means. There was also a cameo by George Lucas and his two daughters, or two of his daughters, in this particular film. They're right outside Palpatine's suite there at the Mon Cal Opera. And Lucas actually has got this blue skin and kind of a turban-looking thing on.
Yeah, he's just on the left-hand side of the screen if you're looking at it. As they're walking in.
Yep, and then his son Jet is the young Padawan who, as Jimmy Smits or Bail Organa, pulls up to the Jedi Temple to find out what's going on, and he's being brushed away by the clone troopers. That the Padawan that comes out is his son Jet. So
he puts up a good fight too. By the way,
he does. So there's some fun little cameos in there. But that's the main stuff I've got.
Right. George also made a voice cameo. Well, part of his voice did. He is actually, his cough, he had a cold apparently during this shooting of this movie, and his cough makes an appearance as when you hear Grievous cough, that's actually George Lucas coughing.
Funny.
Yeah, interesting stuff. A couple other things. Originally, the original cut of this film was 4 hours long.
Wow.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the first scene we were talking about where they're saving Palpatine from the Separatist ship, that scene was over an hour long until they cut it back. So maybe, I don't know why they kept in if you're going to cut that much out of it, but they did. And so that's interesting. Also, the scenes of the lava on Mustafar was actually from a live volcano. It was from Mount Etna in Italy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so interesting stuff that is actually not just CG, that is actually cut scenes from an actual volcano eruption that was going on. So kind of cool stuff. So that's it. Closing thoughts, anybody? Anything else you want to say about this film, Michelle?
And I don't know if this is a stretch, but I know that when we watched it again, I felt like it evoked the same kind of emotion and parallels with Harry Potter. And it made me think, was this a movie that had an influence over the Harry Potter series? Was it something that could have... In
the fact that they're trying to separate Harry away from his friends, like Voldemort was trying to do that and stuff like that.
And you have the big bad and he's trying to pull him in, the things about where, with Harry's wand and Voldemort's wand, they're equals and they can't destroy each other's, things like that.
Interesting stuff. Interesting thoughts. Yeah.
Just like I said, I didn't know if some of the concepts may have had, whether intentionally or not, had an influence over the writings of Harry Potter.
Yeah. Very interesting thought. That would be interesting to know if J.K. Rowling is a Star Wars fan, although this film came out after some of those books were written already, but interesting stuff. So,
yeah. Although not the last ones.
No, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
That's what I'm thinking. And more the end series with Voldemort coming in, the last two.
Interesting thoughts. For those of you who are Star Wars fans and Harry Potter fans, you may want to look at that and see if there's a correlation between the two. I think that's very interesting, Michelle.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Rob, your final thoughts?
The two that stick out in my mind are first, as we talked about before, Obi-Wan's inability to finish off Anakin, even after he had cut off his legs and his one remaining arm. And it's interesting because it would have almost been more kind to kill him at that point, as opposed to just letting him suffer. And in a lot of ways, that was, his true failure as a Jedi, was the fact that he wasn't able to actually kill him, because that led to a very long, dark period with the Empire reigning. But it also is interesting in the sense that it shows just how flawed the Jedi had become, because even per Obi-Wan's own admission, you were my brother, I loved you. Clearly there is some serious attachment there. there.
Oh, yeah.
Between the two of them, and that was a lot of what blinded him. But it was a great way to kind of bring it up to the point where we pick things up, or more or less where we pick things up with Episode 4. I'm looking forward to when we get into Rogue One, because that certainly is another big plus there. But yeah, it was really well done in terms of how they ended it and how they kind of brought everything to the place where we knew it to be at the beginning of Episode 4.
Yeah, I agree. Not a perfect movie, but I believe that this definitely hit many marks that you're looking for it to hit. It's one of it kills me every time I watch it. And that speech that you were just talking about, where you were my brother, Anakin, crushes me every single time. Ewan McGregor does such a masterful job with playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it just crushes me. But I just think it hit the right tone that needed to be hit for this film, and I just think it's one of the better films out of the Star Wars, the whole oeuvre of Star Wars films.
Right. I mean, even in that scene where Obi-Wan was even, you could tell, I'm not thinking he was necessarily angry at Anakin, but saying you were supposed to be the chosen one, like a loss of confidence in his own faith, kind of like whether you're talking about somebody with a religious background feeling like something failed and they no longer had a trust in their faith of what was supposed to happen.
Yeah, and in regards to the prophecy that Anakin was supposedly the chosen one for, I mean, if you look at it at the end of this film, he truly had brought balance to the Force.
Right.
I mean, you had 2 Sith and you had 2 remaining Jedi that were at least, known at this point. I think we kind of know that there were more Jedi that escaped the purge than that. But, it certainly had brought the Force more in balance in terms of it had been definitely slanted toward the light for quite some time.
Well, even Yoda within the film talks about, they talk about, well, is not this the prophecy that was foretold? And he's like, well, a prophecy that it could have been read wrong, and obviously it was. Yeah. So that's definitely a good point there. I just think this film is a great film, and I'm so happy that George came around after a couple stumbles in the prequels, and yes, even some stumbles within this film, and created something that I think we all can agree is really, really good. Really, really good movie.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of it was just technology. I think had you made those same films today, that they would be notably better.
Right.
I don't disagree with you there. There we go. So that's our look back. Star Wars Remembered, Episode 3, The Revenge of the Sith. Next time, we're going to do this next month, some point in June. We're moving on to actually the most recent movie, which is funny. We're moving to the most recent Star Wars film, and that is going to be Solo, a Star Wars story. So
looking forward to that one.
Sorry if you haven't seen it. There will be spoilers, just warning, but it's going to, by the time we talk about it, it's going to have been out for over a year. So you have still time to go check it out if you want to go before we do that episode.
And we would recommend you do that.
And we would recommend you do that.
It is a good movie.
So Rob, thanks for joining us again. Of course, you host the Jedi Temple Archives Podcast. Please tell how everybody can find your show.
Yeah, you can find us. It's Jedi Temple Archives Podcast. We're on basically all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. So if you like to listen to podcasts on a platform and you can't find us, just drop us a line again at jtapodcast@gmail.com, and I will go ahead and get that particular platform added for you. If you got any ideas for topics you'd like to see on future shows or whatever, you can reach out to us at jtapodcast@gmail.com, or on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Instagram at JTA Podcast. So thanks so much for having me on, and I'm looking forward to our next episode where we're going to do Solo.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Well, as always, we really appreciate the input and feedback that you bring to our show. You make it a better quality show, and we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, guys.
Rob, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us again.
You bet. Take care.
So thanks again to Rob LaBarre of the Jedi Temple Archives Podcast. So good talking with him once a month as we do the Star Wars Remembered series.
Yeah, he's a great addition to our show. And again, follow his podcast because it's awesome.
Yeah, the Jedi Temple Archives Podcast. Great show. Very approachable show that if you love Star Wars, if you know a lot about Star Wars, it's good for that. And if you just kind of watch the movies and only know a little bit, he approaches it in a very smooth way that allows you in and doesn't seem to talk down to you, as not me knowing so much about Star Wars.
That's right. Like I always say, I always feel like I come back after listening to his podcast feeling, hey, wow, I learned something and I didn't feel like a jerk.
Didn't feel like a jerk.
Maybe we
Thanks,
should
Rob.
edit that out.
Yeah, don't make me feel like a jerk.
Okay, maybe let's see.
The Jedi Temple Archives Podcast, the podcast that doesn't make you feel like a jerk.
That was a poor choice of words. Let's see. That doesn't make me feel intimidated.
I actually like it better that way. Rob,
man.
You should change your tagline.
I'm so sorry. That's not what I meant.
We have a new title for the show.
I'm so embarrassed now.
No, that was
so
awesome. I love. Look, you should see how red she is. It's awesome.
Totally.
I love it. Actually, I think that's perfect.
gosh.
That is so good. That's so good. Anyway, yeah, definitely check it out. The show that doesn't make you feel like a jerk. Oh, you're gonna make me cough. It's cold. Oh my god. Oh, that was great. That was great. I love you, honey. You're the best. You're the best.
Thanks.
Let's move on.
I'll pay you to edit that out.
Let's move on from that to our stories of the week, our Disney stories of the week. Of course, every week there are so many Disney stories. We like to get you at least a few of them to kind of, discuss what goes on. And there's so many stories, but there were some really big ones this week. And I think the biggest one this week was the announcing of the new Disney Legends. It was an exciting list, right?
Exciting. Very happy to see. Very appropriate list, and just glad to see that they're giving all of these fine people some great recognition.
Right. So they came out this week. Of course, they're every 2 years now, they do a new list of Disney legends. They all come in, are announced, or inducted essentially at the D23 Expo, which is coming up in August at Anaheim, at the Anaheim Convention Center. Yeah, there's still tickets available. If you want to go, you should check it out. But here's the list. There were 11 names this year. A lot some you may not know, but we're going to go down through the whole list here, so bear with us. I'm going to start with some of the lesser known names and kind of move on to some of the bigger, more known names. Yes. So let's start out we'll start with the first of the 11, Wing Chow, who for 37 years at Disney, he played a vital role in designing and by the way, this is straight from the D23.com. So just so you know, designing and developing exceptional and inspirational projects worth more than $12 billion at Disney parks and resorts worldwide. Wing served as the vice chairman of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts for Asia Pacific Development, as well as executive vice president of Walt Disney Imagineering, where he oversaw master planning, architecture, and design. So big name in the Asian parks, which unfortunately we haven't been able to visit yet, but we're looking forward to, because they have some amazing stuff out there that I really want to check out. So, and he was obviously one of the big names behind it. So that's awesome.
Great contribution to the Disney organization, and so it makes sense.
Right. Totally makes sense. I agree completely with you. Let's move on to the next name. Kenny Ortega was the next name inducted as a Disney legend. He is a multi-award-winning director, choreographer, and producer. His first work with Disney was choreographing, I can say it, the TV special Disney's Totally Minnie in 1988. That was followed by Mickey's 60th birthday the same year. Kenny directed his first feature film, the beloved Disney musical Newsies. You may know that one,
right.
Which was followed in 1993 by the Halloween favorite, Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Hocus Pocus, another big time movie that a lot of people know, and it's kind of become a cult classic within Disney fandom. In 2006, he helmed the Disney Channel smash hit High School Musical, and more recently, he's been working on the Descendants group of films for Disney Channel.
Yes, so. Such an eclectic group of things that he's worked on, so that's pretty impressive.
Right. So he's doing a lot more stuff, mostly with the Disney Channel now, but he's done some feature film stuff and choreographing a lot of this great stuff. All the High School Musical stuff, he's been a part of that. So good stuff. Next name is Barnett Ricci, who started this. She's really interesting. I have not heard of her before, but I was reading through the stuff that she's done. Fascinating stuff. She started her career with the Walt Disney Company as a choreographer at Disneyland. In the late 60s, Barnett created and directed Kids of the Kingdom before going on to choreograph and direct many parades, including Christmas parades, America On Parade, and the Main Street Electrical Parade.
Wow. That's really great. I mean, the people who really set up and make the parades great really do deserve recognition, because it's a daily thing that many people enjoy, and they do a lot of hard work, and it's not an easy thing for them to do. And that's so cool that they're recognizing her.
Right. You wouldn't necessarily, sometimes you don't really notice the choreography in some of these parades, but it plays a big part in seeing them. And even especially like the Main Street Electrical Parade. Right. You think of all the lights and the sounds and everything.
And
you don't really think of the choreography, but there's a lot of it that goes on there. She's also worked on the grand openings of Walt Disney World, Epcot Center, and Tokyo Disneyland, and directed popular stage shows such as the Golden Horseshoe Revue at Disneyland, the Diamond Horseshoe Revue at Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World Resort. Cool. And perhaps her biggest claim to fame is the creation of Fantasmic. She choreographed for Fantasmic, of course, which debuted in Disneyland in 1992. So if you know Fantasmic, she was the one who created the dance steps and all the movement and stuff.
Pretty impressive.
So, yeah, big name and very
lots of talent there.
Yeah, so that's why I was talking about when I didn't know much about her, but I was reading about her. I was like, wow, very impressive. All these people are impressive, but she especially so. Moving on, we start moving to more names that you may know or may have heard of. Robin Roberts, of course, who you may know from ABC and ESPN. She's worked there for a long time. In 1990, Robin joined ESPN and would quickly become a frequent contributor to the network's programming. In her 15 years at ESPN, she contributed to the NFL Primetime and hosted SportsCenter and In the Game with Robin Roberts. Robin began making appearances on Good Morning America in 1995, and in 2005 left ESPN to join the show, became full-time as a co-anchor. Since joining GMA, the show has won 4 Emmys for Outstanding Morning Program. She's become basically the face of Good Morning America, gradually starting as just kind of a part-time character, or part-time, not a character, but a part-time contributor, and moved up, and now she is the face of Good Morning America, one of the most popular morning shows in television. And more recently she conquered she had a battle with cancer that she got through and conquered, but really great to see her come through and be named a Disney legend.
True. And she just seems like a lovely person. Love her demeanor. She really brings a lot to that show, and I'm so proud for her that she's getting this recognition. Yeah,
really great. A perfect name. I love that she's a part of this. And also, being a sports fan, I've seen her for so many years back in ESPN, and she was great on ESPN and SportsCenter and all these other shows. And then moving on to morning news. You want to call it news. It's not news. It's sort of fun news, entertaining news, whatever. News. But, to move on to this program and be so successful there, it's great to see. Speaking of news, another news person also is another Disney legend this year, and that is Diane Sawyer. What a big name, Diane Sawyer. She's an ABC News anchor. She tackled some of the biggest issues of our time with original reporting, primetime specials, long-form interviews, and in-depth investigations. One of the most respected journalists in the world, her primetime documentaries have won critical acclaim for shedding light on difficult and previously underreported topics, including her reporting on the realities of poverty in America. Diane's reporting has been recognized with numerous awards, including DuPont's, Emmys, Peabody's, the grand prize of the Premier Investigative Reporters and Editors Association, and IRTS Lifetime Achievement Award, and the USC Distinguished Achievement of Journalism Award. And in 1997, she was inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame. But now she's finally made it
as a Disney legend.
It took this long. All that, whatever. Now she's a Disney legend.
Exactly. That's a cherry on top, right? So kudos to her. That's great.
Yeah. So big name, and gosh, what a career that she's had.
Yes.
And it's amazing. And
she was strong in journalism as a female journalist when that may not have been the most popular position.
Right. So. It's talk about a glass ceiling that she kind of needed to break through. She did it really well, and has just done amazing things. And now is a Disney legend, just to tack on to all that other stuff she's done. That's fantastic.
Right. That's awesome.
Moving on, we'll talk to the world of music now and basically soundtracks. And that moves on to Hans Zimmer, who made the list. Yeah, I know you were excited when you saw that one. Yeah. Hans Zimmer has scored more than 160 projects, which combined have grossed more than $28 billion worldwide. Hans has been honored with an Academy Award, 2 Golden Globes, 3 Grammys, an American Music Award, and a Tony Award. In addition to his long list of credits, including notable projects such as Gladiator and the Dark Knight trilogy, Hans has had a great history with the Walt Disney Company. His early work from them includes additional music for White Fang in 1991 and co-writing music for Cool Runnings in 1993. His groundbreaking Academy Award-winning instrumental score for The Lion King was followed by many memorable projects, including Crimson Tide in 1995, Muppet Treasure Island 1996, The Rock 1996 as well, Pearl Harbor in 2001, King Arthur 2004, and Iron Man in 2008.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Hans is the guiding force behind the music of Pirates of the Caribbean, of course, which is kind of where we got to know him. He also had some producing capacities with The Curse of the Black Pearl, Dead Man's Chest, At World's End, On Stranger Tides. And of course, Hans is currently composing the music for this summer's reimagining of The Lion King.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I know. I'm so happy.
What a resume this guy has in the world of music, of musical scores. It's just amazing.
It is. I mean, if even just looking at the Pirates of the Caribbean song, I mean, who cannot listen to that song and just feel like charged up?
Right.
And I mean, but like you're saying, all the other works, very eclectic, and we just have loved him for years. So I'm so happy he's being honored.
Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised he wasn't to this point, but it's so great to hear. And very, very worthy part of the Disney legends. Definitely deserves. Speaking of deserves, we have another Disney princess getting into there. Yes,
so exciting.
Yes, Ming-Na Wen, who you may know as Mulan, is a Disney legend this year. You can currently find her saving the day as Agent Melinda May, a.k.a. the Cavalry, on ABC series Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is actually one of our favorite shows. We've watched it from the beginning and continue to watch it to this day. We were just watching the last episode yesterday, as a matter of fact. She's also known for her 7 years of playing Jing Mei Chen on ER. She found success on the big screen, of course, when she appeared in the acclaimed Hollywood Pictures adaptation of Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club. 5 years later, she would find animation immortality, as we just discussed, was the title star of Disney's classic Mulan, a role for which she would receive an Annie Award, which is an award given for the best animated features of the year. Yeah. Ming-Na returned to the role of heroic Fa Mulan in a slew of projects, including an animated sequel and video games, some of our favorite video games, Kingdom Hearts 2 and Disney Infinity on television's House of Mouse on Sophia the First, and in the Walt Disney Animation Studios film Ralph Breaks the Internet from last year.
Yeah. So happy for her. She's awesome. We love watching her, like you said, now in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's so funny because it's kind of hard now when we watch Mulan to not hear.
Every time through her voice, you're hearing Mulan when she speaks. Yes.
Exactly.
But every interview I see with her, she just seems really like a wonderful person, really nice people. Everything has great things to say about her, and so excited that she's making it in.
Happy about that.
That's
too.
Great. Moving on, Bette Midler is the next one we're going to talk about. Yeah, Bette Midler, of all people, making it in. When the Disney studio set out to expand the breadth of his film production with Touchstone Pictures, we talked about how Touchstone films are a part of the Disney film history so many times. It was Bette Midler they went to, is Emmy winner, Grammy winner, Golden Globe, Tony winner. So they decided to help bring her in to kind of expand the success in the new division. She appeared in a string of hit comedies, including Down and Out in Beverly Hills in 1986, Ruthless People also in 1986, Outrageous Fortune in 1987, and Big Business in 1988. Touchstone's 1988 drama Beaches not only proved to be a smash with audiences, but it also included Bette's platinum-selling rendition of Wind Beneath My Wings. Other Disney films.
Song.
Yes, absolutely. tear-jerking song for
Right.
sure. Other Disney films followed, including Stella in 1990, Scenes from a Mall in 1991, as well as a memorable vocal performance as spoiled poodle Georgette in Oliver and Company in 1988. Bet is well known to Disney audience for her role as the witchy Winifred in the perennial Halloween classic Hocus Pocus, which we just talked about as well, which came out in 1993. So yeah, Bette Midler, a Disney legend now. That's so cool.
I know. I think if you had asked me, I probably would have thought that was already another one that we would have thought was already on the list of legends. So it's long overdue, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I would have thought Bette Midler was already in, but it's great to see that she's in now. Speaking, another person that I'm surprised wasn't already in that's getting in this year, and that's James Earl Jones. Yeah, how was he not already a Disney legend, right? He started his acting career with the television and film roles, including appearances in As the World Turns way back in 1966 and Dr. Strangelove 1964. Wow. But the Oscar, Emmy, and Tony Award-winning actor is well known for his iconic voice acting, beginning with the role of Darth Vader in Star Wars A New Hope, of course, 1977. This villainous vocal performance was reprised in subsequent Star Wars films, including most recently in Rogue One, A Star Wars Story in 2016, and TV shows like Star Wars Rebels from 2014 to 2018. His voice can also be heard in Disney parks around the globe, including recurring vocal performances as Darth Vader for Star Tours The Adventures Continues. Other Disney credits include ABC's Recess in 1998. Wow. As the voice of Santa Claus.
Oh,
Can you think of Darth Vader as Santa Claus?
Yeah, right?
He was the narrator for the Disney nature film Earth in 2009.
There's good in him.
There is good. That's what they always said. There is good in him. Luke knew it all along. There was good in him. Where was I? Oh, yeah. He was a segment host for Fantasia 2000 in 2000, obviously.
Right.
He was a celebrity narrator for the candlelight processional ceremony at Disneyland a few times.
That would have been great to see.
Yeah, could you imagine that voice doing the candlelight processional? Wow.
Man, yeah.
Audiences also recognized the actor, of course, because of Mufasa in The Lion King in 1994. Right. I mean, he still is playing Mufasa to this day into the upcoming Lion King. He's coming back and playing Mufasa again. He was also in The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, The Lion Guard, Return of the Roar 2015. So yeah, James Earl Jones, what an amazing career he's had. And
absolutely.
Again, I would have sworn he would have already, just for Mufasa alone.
I know.
He would have already been a Disney legend, but it's so good that he's finally making it in.
Yeah. And I love how, we've seen him even on some television show like Big Bang and everything, kind of making light of himself, kind of laughing at himself, and, just a wonderful, wonderful person, and so happy that he's being honored.
Yeah.
And that we'll be there to see it.
Yeah. He's also great. And this wasn't named in here. I'm sure it's nothing to do with Disney or whatever, but Field of Dreams. He plays a great role in Field of Dreams too, if you have ever seen that film. Just so good. James Earl Jones is just awesome. And, to this day, he still has that commanding voice. He doesn't quite have the same voice he had, obviously 10, 15. Who does? Right. I don't have the same voice I had 10 or 15 minutes ago. But it still is impressive when he comes out there and just commands the room just with his voice.
Yes.
It's just such a signature voice for sure. Moving on, Jon Favreau is making it. Yes, he's a Disney legend starting this year. He started his career with appearances in film and television and has since become one of Hollywood's most successful producers and directors. Jon's first roles included appearances on TV shows such as Seinfeld and Friends. But his big break became in the Miramax indie film Swingers in 1996, for which he wrote the screenplay, starred, and co-produced. But we really know him. Come on. He has directing credits for Iron Man in 2008, Iron Man 2 in 2010, the live-action remake of The Jungle Book in 2016, and of course, he is currently working on this year's reimagining of The Lion King. I think there's a tie in here. Can you think The Lion King might be coming out this summer? The fact that there's several people in working on this film that are going to be going in. Yeah. Jon also made appearances in several Marvel Cinematic Universe films as Tony Stark's loyal bodyguard, Happy Hogan, who I love Happy Hogan. He's so great. It's just a side character, but he's so great. And he was the producer of Marvel Studios. Jon holds credits on such films as, of course, we just talked about Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Marvel's The Avengers, Avengers Age of Ultron, Avengers Infinity War. He also voiced characters for Disney's television shows and feature films, including Hercules in 1999, TV's Hercules, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command in 2000, G-Force 2009, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. He did some voices in that as well.
Nice.
Solo: A Star Wars Story.
Right.
Yes, that's the next. By the way, that's the next film we're hitting on our Star Wars Remembered series coming up here next month. John is writing and executive producing, of course, the live-action Star Wars series, The Mandalorian, for Disney Plus, which will premiere this November and looks fantastic. So excited for it.
Yeah. I mean, what a talented person. I mean, that he can do it all. And, how much he fits in a day is just impressive.
Right.
What he can do, go from one studio to the next, and all these different projects that he's working on. So impressive.
Right.
And he's brought so much great work to the screen.
So much good. I mean, just listen to that list. And there's so many things we didn't even mention here that he's done that are so great. But I mean, we were watching some of the footage from Star Wars Celebration just a little while, about a month ago or so. And he was talking about doing The Mandalorian and how he would be going back and forth in the studio from doing the Lion King, live action Lion King, and back to The Mandalorian. I mean, how do you put those two things together at the same time? It's amazing. That's it's crazy stuff. So good for him. And then let's finish it off with probably the biggest name. I mean, any of these names are big. I mean, you have Bette Midler's huge. Obviously, James Earl Jones, huge. But probably the biggest name, and maybe the one closest to our heart, especially with what most recently happened and continues to happen in the box office, is Robert Downey Jr. is going to be a Disney legend.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Awesome. He's a 2-time Academy Award nominee and Golden Globe winner who has appeared in more than 80 films. I didn't realize 80 films.
Wow,
I knew he'd been in a lot, but 80. Wow. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Considered one of the industry's most talented and respected actors, Robert has embraced both dramatic and comedic roles, including his Disney debut in the 2006 remake of The Shaggy Dog. After numerous standout performances, Robert then went on to help launch Marvel Studios with his celebrated performance of Tony Stark, which, as Iron Man, let's face it, we don't get to Avengers Endgame if Iron Man isn't a success. If he doesn't pull off, Robert Downey Jr. doesn't pull off Tony Stark believably, and that movie isn't good, I don't know if we get through 22 movies and get to what is possibly about to be the biggest box office hit of all time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's you're absolutely correct on that.
Yeah. Incredible. His role spearheaded the iconic blockbuster franchises Iron Man and the Avengers, for which he starred in 3 Iron Man films, The Incredible Hulk in 2008, Captain America Civil War 2016, and Spider-Man Homecoming 2017, and all 4 Avengers films, including the most recent Avengers Endgame, which shattered box office records and became the largest ever film debut, bringing in $1.2 billion worldwide in its opening weekend. Robert will next star in the title role of 2020's The Voyage of Dr. Dolittle. Who knew? This is the first I've heard of this film, but it's really interesting. And it's in pre-production on the 3rd installment of the successful Sherlock Holmes franchise as well. So,
nice.
Yeah. What a great name to be listed as. All of them are great names, but Robert Downey Jr. to be a Disney legend, that's
definitely
awesome.
And as a man, how he's had to fight through some demons and really brought success back to his life. Kudos again for him as well.
Yeah, so that's so great. That's exciting stuff. And of course, we're talking about all this. This is all going to be, if you want to see this, there's a panel. It's usually the first panel of every D23 Expo where they do the induction of all the nominees. It's actually a fairly easy panel to get into. Surprisingly enough, I guess because it's the first day, it's a Friday. Maybe not everybody's arrived yet. Maybe they're waiting for the next panel, which is usually, I think it's the Disney animation panel.
Sure.
Is the next one, I believe. Yeah, the animation panel. So a lot of people are waiting to get into that one. But if you want to hit one of the big panels, if you want to see some of these big celebrities, and you're going to the D23 Expo and you have Friday tickets, I recommend you checking this out. If not, if you're not going to be able to get out there, we will be there and we'll be reporting on it all. So we'll let you know what all happens when we get to we have lots of stuff to talk about with the D23 Expo as we progress on for sure.
There'll probably be some tears shed on that one.
No question.
Tears of joy.
Tears of joy, and just what a great. each and every one of these names is, well deserved of being a Disney legend. And, I can't wait to see if you ever get to go to the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, they had the Legends Plaza there.
Yes.
And you can just walk through there and they have these plaques up with all the various different Disney legends names there and those that were inducted while they were still living.
Right.
They have handprints on that plaque, and it's just kind of cool to walk through that Disney Legends area and check this all out and see who's there, see all the names, and it's right in front of the Disney the Disney business buildings. If you've seen pictures from the studios, it's the one where the seven dwarves are kind of holding up the roof.
Right.
Yeah. It's a really cool place to be.
It's a beautiful courtyard. It's got a lot of, you just feel the history there, and we love going over there and seeing that. And when you're in there, you just feel like, we need to play our homage to all these wonderful people.
Right. And it's one of those benefits if you are a D23 Gold or Gold family member, is that there are often events, if you can make it to the West Coast or if you're on the West Coast, where you get to go, whether it be the studio tour or whether it be some of the film screenings on the lot there, or they have the Christmas time, the Light Up the Season event. They have lots of events out there at the studios, and it really is a nice chance to go out there and not only just enjoy Disney with a bunch of other Disney fans, but also check out what is really a amazing place, the Walt Disney Studios that you've seen in many films, and it's
fabulous.
Just so much history there. That alone is almost worth the price of being a D23 Gold or Gold family member.
I would have to agree with you on that one. And if you do go out there, again, that's a courtyard that I think a lot of people just kind of walk through or walk past and not notice all those wonderful plaques and recognitions to everybody. So if you do get that opportunity, take that time to look around and just appreciate what's there and all the people that came before and made this company awesome.
Right. They also have, it's the other place where they have one of the Disney partner statues. They have them at the hub at Magic Kingdom and at the hub at Disneyland Park. But they also had the partner statue right there in the Disney Legends area, right in the center. It's a great place if you happen to be there to get a picture taken with it. There's a lot less crowd than when you get at the park. It's just awesome. It's amazing whenever you walk. We've been there. We've been lucky, blessed to be on that lot several times now. And still, every time we walk on, it's just like, I can't believe we're on the lot.
I know. It feels like such an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but these people, all great honors to be Disney legends. So awesome stuff. So happy for them. Let's move on to parks news. Yay, parks news. We'll start here on the West Coast with the Disneyland Resort and the Lamplight Lounge at Disney California Adventure Parks, which will soon have a new way to enjoy its great food and drinks. Yes, this is very exciting. This is from www.info.com. Beginning on May 25th, so coming up this week, the Lamplight Lounge on Pixar Pier at Disney California Adventure Park will be adding a weekend brunch. Yay! So brunch is scheduled to be served from 8:15 a.m. to noon on Saturday and Sunday. Lunch will begin at 12:30 p.m. with dinner starting at 4 p.m. When I heard about this, we booked the brunch immediately.
You're so wonderful and smart.
So not only are on June 1st, we're doing, of course, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
We are doing a dessert package for the World of Color. And now we're also doing brunch at the Lamplight Lounge. So that is going to be one heck of a day. And we'll be telling you all about it on our anniversary episode on June 2nd. So while the brunch menu isn't currently available on the official Disneyland website, this was www.info.com was able to get a glimpse of the menu earlier this week. And they say it may be adjusted before brunch begins, but here's what they saw that will be on it. There'll be a brunch burger, which is $22. That is a grilled custom burger blend with American cheese, 1 egg sunny side up, roasted green chili, lettuce, paprika aioli, and a toasted Amish bun served with fresh fruit. That sounds great.
It does.
Yeah. That's $22. A crab and potato cake Benedict, which I think we'll be hopping all over, which is $22 with sauteed spinach, soft poached eggs, chipotle hollandaise, and fresh fruit. That sounds delicious.
It does.
Yeah. I'm not going to give the ingredients for every one of these, but I'll go through these. And there's an egg white frittata bake. There's an indulgent French toast, which is, I will go through this one. Cinnamon brown sugar challah bread with Irish cream, whipped cream.
Wow.
Yeah. Maple syrup, macerated berries, and handmade almond brittle.
Wow.
We may have to order like 3 or 4 things.
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
definitely 2 so we can try things.
Right.
But.
Yeah. Lamplight chilaquiles will be on this. That's $19. New York avocado toast for $28. How can avocado toast cost $28? You ask. I know that's what was in your mind. Here is the New York avocado toast. It's sourdough avocado mash, New York steak.
That's what I was figuring.
Yeah, 1 egg sunny side up. Piquillo butter sauce, arugula salad, pickled red onions, and confit potatoes. That sounds amazing, actually.
Wow, it does.
Yeah. And finally, potato flauta is also on the menu for $17, which is the vegetarian dish. It has plant-based chorizo, vegan piquillo crema, serrano tomatilla salsa, arugula salad, and escabeche.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
So a lot of great stuff on there. And also kids, they have a kids menu as well. They have a brunch quesadilla, which is egg whites, cheddar and jack on a whole wheat tortilla. So a pretty healthy quesadilla, actually. Indulgent French toast, mini brunch burger, and an omelet as well. So all those are $10 or less for the kids.
Cool.
So yeah, cool stuff. And we have our reservation. So we'll be checking it out here in just a couple of weeks. And along with everything else we're reporting on from that weekend. Again, that episode gets longer and longer and longer.
Oh my gosh.
We will be talking about that. If you want to go, if you're going to be on the West Coast, if you're going to Disneyland, reservations for brunch are now available. We suggest you make them. You can make them as early as 60 days out from your trip that you're coming. So jump on that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Lamplight Lounge and reservations and some other things about it. But I think for brunch, you probably want to be sure and get a reservation for that.
Yeah, definitely. Good advice.
Yes. Finally, let's wrap up our Disney news stories of the week. And that is also at Disneyland Park, with a classic parks icon is about to get its re-debut. Ooh. This from the OC Register. Sleeping Beauty Castle. Yes. It's gotten a little bit of TLC and sprinkling of pixie dust as the 64-year-old Disneyland icon prepares for her turn in the spotlight ahead of the grand opening of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. This is so exciting. I don't know if you've seen the pictures.
Yeah, I have started seeing some of the pictures. It looks great.
It looks spectacular. It looks so beautiful. Sleeping Beauty Castle is expected to reopen on May 24th after an extensive renovation that walled off the Anaheim theme park's centerpiece landmark for 4 months. The decorative scrims surrounding the castle are expected to come down actually yesterday on May 18th, but the official re-debut will be on May 24th. So, yeah.
So wonderful.
Right in time for Memorial Day weekend, and of course, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge as well. So the castle renovation adds a bold new paint job, fresh gold leaf on the finial ornaments, a new roof, and a sprinkling of star-shaped pixie dust on the shingles above the drawbridge entrance. It looks spectacular.
It does.
It really looks beautiful from all the pictures I've seen online. I'm going to post one along with our show notes on our website. So when you get this, if you want to take a look at what it looks like, if you haven't found it already all over social media, I'll find a picture there from social media and post it as well. It looks spectacular.
Great. Yeah, it does. It does. And the colors are beautiful. They really did a great job.
Right. And so, yeah, it's so
not
pretty.
That we didn't expect otherwise. But
right.
Yeah.
But it looks even better than I expected. I kind of just thought they were just going to, polish it up a little bit, fix a few things that have been damaged on it. But they just gave it a brand new life almost.
Yeah.
And this is the first ever Disney castle. And I know if you go to Cinderella Castle and everything, and then you come to Sleeping Beauty Castle, it's going to look small to you. Mm-hmm. But this is the first ever Disney castle. And so it holds a dear place. It should hold a dear place in all Disney fans' hearts.
Yep, it's the OG.
It is the OG castle, and so great to have it all spruced up and ready to go for what is going to be an enormous season coming up here at Disneyland Park.
Yeah, it's again, it's turning out beautiful and it's exciting, and gosh, that's going to be quite a phenomenal opening.
Yeah.
For the park.
Yeah, I'm looking forward when we get out there to seeing that, just walking down Main
Right.
Street, USA, and right to that castle, because it has been, for 4 months, like they said in the article, they just had this facade over it, and they did a nice artwork of the castle, but it's just not the same. It's not the same as actually being there and standing in front of the castle, getting your picture in front of the castle. It's just not the same. So it's great that now, coming up this week, people are going to not only be able to get their pictures in front of the castle, but a brand spanking beautiful, newly renovated castle.
Cool.
Great. Yeah. So happy about that. So that's my Disney stories of the week. I believe you have a Disney story of the week.
I just have a little brief Disney news story, honey. So this has to do with Disney Cruise Line.
Oh, one of our favorites.
That's right. Always love thinking about Disney cruises. Let me just pause.
Yes, we're less than a year away.
Yes. Anyways, so some of you may already be familiar with the Disney Cruise Line Navigator app that's been out for a while. And that's really been helpful, especially once you're on the cruise. It really helps give you all the information. You can, kind of plug in what your favorite, tag your favorite things, and it can send you reminders. It does a ton of things, and I won't go into a lot of details because that's still remaining the same. But what's really great now is their upgrade to giving you access to things before the cruise. Like before, the only thing that before the cruise that you could do was a countdown calendar, which we've done.
Of course, absolutely. I already got ours going for next year's cruise.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Are you kidding me? Definitely.
All right, I'll have to catch up with you on that one. But now they're adding a lot more features that were really exclusive to their website. So what the app can now do for you before going on the actual cruise is you can make payments on it. You can see your price summary. You can even view and modify your stateroom. So if you see the category that you have and something else may have come up, you can make that change to your stateroom on that app. Obviously, viewing deck plans. You can start exploring and booking activities such as port adventures, adult dining, the nursery, and spa and fitness treatment and therapy. So like I said, a lot of things that you may have been able to do historically with the website are now available, will be available on the app as well. So that's fun to be able to have that app. And again, it was great having the countdown clock, but now to be able to do a lot of things remotely on your mobile device is so cool.
Right. And it totally makes sense because it was one of those apps where if you had it and you didn't have a cruise planned in the near future, there was really no reason to have it taking up space on your phone, on your tablet or whatever. So you would delete it and then just reload it as you actually booked something and then to put the countdown clock there. But, now it's as a reason to be there and stay on your phone or your app or your tablet or whatever. And also, we see more of a proliferation now of more people doing things on their phone or their tablet. They're not going as much onto a computer to get things done. Why not make it easier for people to just have the app there and just to go through the app and book all these things? We're starting to see it now a lot more with the Disney Parks app as well. So it just only makes sense for the Disney Cruise app to have more abilities as well.
Right. So exciting. So happy that they've done that.
Yeah. So that's great.
Nice convenience.
Great story. Michelle always has great stories. Speaking of greatness of Michelle, it's time to get on to our vacation tips, our tips of the week. Every week we try and wrap up the show with some sort of tip that might help you on your next trip, your next vacation, whether you're going to the parks, whether you're going to Disney Cruise Lines, we just talked about, Run Disney, the movies, anything that revolves around Disney. We try and give you some sort of tip to close out our show every week. And of course, we always lead off with Michelle because she's wonderful, beautiful, and everything great.
You're so wonderful.
But also because she always has the best. By the way, I meant to mention this. I don't know if you saw this from one of our friends, part of our World podcast, that they retweeted our last show. And they mentioned how great your picks were for last week. But they also on their show mentioned your tip on laundry.
I know.
That's
so great.
Yeah. And like I said on that, I wrote back to them. I'm like, well, Michelle always has the best tips. So you should be sharing her tips on your show. So thank you Thank you, Keenan and Rachel, and part of our World Podcast. Another great show. We love them, and we're going to be getting on some shows with them coming up here in the near future. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the person who always has the best tips. Let's get to Michelle's tip of the week.
Oh, I was looking around the room. Who's supposed to be here? Yeah. Well, you're sweet, honey. Well, I'm continuing on with that Disney Cruise Line theme, because once I started thinking about Disney cruises, I just couldn't deviate from that. So just a couple little extra special things to remind people that are available with the Disney Cruise Line, or if you haven't been on the Disney Cruise Line and you have a cruise planned, some things to think about that you can do to, make it even a little bit more magical. So just 3 things here. So the first is, especially if you're celebrating something there, well, one, make sure that they know that you're celebrating, like if you're having a birthday or whatever, when you make your reservations. But also if you're celebrating a particular special night, you might want to secretly order milk and cookies through room services before the dinner and the show. Especially like if you have kids and you want to do something special for them, maybe not every night, but pick one night, and so that they don't know it's there. It'll be delivered to your room, and when you come back from the show or dinner in the show, it'll be there, and a fun way to end the evening.
Very nice.
With some milk and cookies. The other thing, in talking about the room service available on the Disney cruise ship, some people may not know that you can pre-order continental style breakfast to your room on each night of the sailings, except for the final night.
Right.
So you can designate what you want, what time you want it delivered, and put it on your door, outside your door, and it'll be magically brought to you during that time. Magically. So, and something I found sometimes when we've sailed on them, it might not always be easy to find the cards. Some people move them around, I think. So if you don't see them right away, you can ask your room steward. But it's a great service to be able to have. I mean, yes, going for breakfast into the restaurants or to the buffet are fine too. So, but if you like to just wake up with something coming delivered to your door, you can stay in your jammies, then that's an option available to you. And the last thing I wanted to share that people might not know about, because it's not really widely put on their website, is if your cruise ship is going to Castaway Cay, they do have a 5K.
Right.
And so I know we've talked about it when we've talked about the Run Disneys, but just want to remind people, because it isn't always easy to find it talked about on their website. So if you are interested in doing that, you can run or walk it. You can either check in at guest services once you're on board, or look at the navigator to find out how to sign up. It's free, but it's a great fun thing to do. You're among the first cruisers to get off the ship.
You are the first cruisers to get off the ship.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And then, you get to do that and relax afterwards. You get a little medallion. It's well, not a little. It's a nice,
it's nice
size medallion. So it's a fun activity to do if you're getting to go to Castaway Cay, and it's free. So
yeah, and it's the benefit of it is because let's face it, when you're getting to Castaway Cay, especially if you're on the bigger ships like the Dream or the Fantasy, the chairs out there, the beach chairs, are at a premium.
Right.
You want to get those spots, especially if you're on the family beach, pretty quickly. When you're the first ones off the ship, you can go right. You finish the 5K, and then you can just go right to those spots. I mean, yes, it's the Caribbean. It'll be hot. You'll be sweaty, but you can get your beach chair and you can go right for a dip. I mean, you're going to be out there sweating and getting sun and getting sand on you anyway. So what's a little extra sweat from the race? There also are showers there. Not that you're going to want to do a full shower, but if you want to just kind of rinse off a little bit, I highly recommend signing up for this, whether you walk, whether you run, just to get a spot on the beach that much earlier.
Right. And it is open to anyone 10 and older. If you have children that are less than 10, they could actually walk with you. They just cannot officially register and get a bib, but they can go along with you. So yeah, you're right. Bring all your things when you go to do that, so that when you're finished the 5K, you don't have to go back to the ship and get all your paraphernalia for the beach. You can be right there and start enjoying it instantaneously.
Yeah, so that's a great way to do it, and highly recommend it. And you get a bib, you get the medal when you finish it, and it's just a fun way. It's also, if you haven't been to Castaway Cay before, you can kind of, as you're going through the pathway, you can kind of acclimate yourself to the island as you check it all out, as you're going through there, walking, running, however you want to do it. And then, yes, you gather up your stuff and you go right to your chair and you're the first people out there on the beach. You can stake out the spot you want. Highly recommended. Also, on your room service stuff, when you're talking about getting the milk and cookies, if you're someone who likes coffee in the morning, this is one of my favorite tips. I've mentioned it a few times on this show. Be sure and order a carafe of coffee that night. You don't have to drink any of it that night. If you want some, great. But their carafes are really fantastic in the fact that you can order a pot of coffee the night before and just seal it up tight. And the next morning, as soon as you wake up, you can open that up, pour it into a cup, and it'll still be warm. It's not going to be piping hot, but it'll be a nice cup of coffee first thing when you get up in the morning. If you're someone who wants a cup of coffee when you first wake up and don't want to try and get on the clothes or get out there and try and head upstairs or whatever, it's just an easy way to do it.
That's a great point.
And remember to bring some cash with you, $1 or $2 for any of these room service attendees who bring you stuff. $1 or $2, depending on how much you order, is appreciated tip wise.
Definitely.
Yeah. So great tip. Michelle's tips, always the best tips.
Thanks, baby.
Let's get to my little teeny tiny second rate tip now. I'm going to talk, I already talked about a little bit about the Lamplight Lounge. I'm going to talk a little bit about when you go there and needing reservations for the Lamplight Lounge.
Okay.
Now, I suggest always, if you want to go to the Lamplight Lounge, and if you've never been to Disney California Adventure Park, if you've never been to the Lamplight Lounge, I highly, highly recommend you do it.
Totally.
It is an amazing restaurant. Since they redid it this last year for Pixar Pier, from the Cove Bar and what was Ariel's Grotto before to what it is now, they've done some amazing things. We just ate there for the first time a couple weeks ago. It took us that long to finally get in there. We kept forgetting to make reservations as we were making these trips, but we finally did it this last time. And the decor, the little detail work is fantastic. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally would agree. I had my camera out like nonstop for the first, 10, 15 minutes we were in there. It was just really cool to see.
Yeah, the ambiance is fantastic. There's so many little things that you may not even notice the first time you go. You'll probably see 2, 3, 4 times when you go or whatever. Plus the food, and especially if you like an adult beverage, the drinks are really, really good there. Highly recommend you go. But you should probably, if you really want this to be a part of your trip, make a reservation for it. One, it's the easiest way to be sure you get in there. You can set your day up around it so you know when your time is to eat.
Right.
So you can, and you don't have to concern yourself with it. And again, you can make those reservations up to 60 days before your trip or your visit to the park, even if it's not just a full trip, even if it's just a day. However, if for some reason you don't get the chance to make a reservation, or they're all booked up when you go on there to try and do it, that doesn't mean you cannot get into the Lamplight Lounge.
Right.
What you can do is they have a little line there. It's usually not too big. Maybe, it depends on what time of day you go, but there's a line outside and you can just go there and wait in that line. You go in, you go to the front desk and you just tell them, look, I want to eat here.
Right.
They'll take down your name, they'll take down your phone number, and they'll say, okay, we think it's going to be about this time. A lot of times it's an hour or more wait.
Right.
But they'll let you go out and enjoy the park, and they'll text you when your table becomes available. So you can still do this, enjoy the park. Now, there's no guarantees they'll have a spot available for you, but a lot of times they will eventually. Other ways to do it is they also have an outdoor area that's in the upstairs area, back where the Cove Bar, where it used to be mostly the Cove Bar.
Sure.
That outside area, you can also go up and just kind of wait in line and go sit there. Now, they don't have the full menu there. They only have the drinks and some of the small plates
like the
there.
appetizers.
Yeah,
right.
which includes the lobster nachos, which everybody wants to try, and you should, as long as you like lobster, but because it's delicious. You should try the lobster nachos. So they do have that there. They don't have the full menu, and they don't have dessert there, but they do have some of the small plates, so you can get some food and some drinks. So that's another way to approach it as well. You don't get the decor either outside. but you do get a nice view of Pixar Pier from that area. And it's nice sometimes to sit outside.
Yes, it's beautiful out there.
Those are a couple other ways you can enjoy the Lamplight Lounge if you don't have a reservation. Again, I fully recommend you make a reservation. If you have a trip planned, especially if you haven't been to Disneyland Resort often, or you haven't been in a long time since the Lamplight Lounge opened, I suggest you make it part of your trip at some point. You may want to make it a couple points.
Yes.
Because it's that good and there's that much food and it's that interesting to try. I suggest you make a reservation for it and try it out.
Yeah, that's a really great point, honey, and that's a perfect tip. I would totally agree with you on all aspects of that. It's a wonderful place to check out, and you'll enjoy it, and it's just fun. It really is fun, and the people there are fun, and everybody's happy there.
Right.
So it's a great place to check out.
Yeah, I heard about. We loved it as the Cove Bar. We never actually dined in there as Ariel's Grotto.
No,
but we heard of it as the Cove Bar. We loved it as the Cove Bar. When we heard they were doing this and we saw the pictures, I'm like, that's magnificent. We really need to go check this out. We just never fell into the right spot where we could actually make it in. But when we finally got to go, it was magnificent. We had, of course, the lobster nachos, which we had to have. We had a couple Mai Tais because we have to have a couple Mai Tais when we're there. And we had the ratatouille.
Yes.
Which was really good. She wanted something. Michelle's always trying to be really healthy. I'm like going to Disneyland, like, give me the lobster nachos with extra cheese and extra lobster or whatever you can get on there. But she's like, no, I need some vegetables. Let's have the ratatouille. Ratatouille was delicious.
It really was. They did a great job on it. So.
Yeah. So
glad to have tried that.
Right. But there's that's not the only thing on the menu. There's lots of different things to try, and we're looking forward to getting back there. And we're going to be there for the brunch, of course.
Yes.
But also we want to get back for some other meals and try some of the other great stuff they have. I mean, just to see all the detail work that's in there. It's magnificent.
It's cool.
It's cool. So that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. Next week, we're going to be on the road. We're actually taking this show on the road for the first ever time. We're traveling to Arizona to hang out with our family for the Memorial Day weekend. And we are going to be doing the thing we actually had planned to do this week, which is talking about our Disney memories, a lot of attractions and such that have kind of gone by the wayside, what we remember about them. And we're also going to be talking with our family out there and bringing them aboard to join us as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun show. A lot of cute surprises, I think, for people.
Yeah. I think there's going to be some surprises for us when we bring some of your family on and our family on as well. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with that.
Fun.
Should be a lot of fun. So, by the way, be sure and follow us on social media. We want to reach out to you. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but we're 2 weeks out from our anniversary episode, and we really want to hear from you on because there's so many of you have helped make this show happen, and we do this a lot. But yes, because we like to talk Disney, but because you people are so great, all our listeners, all our Hyperion adventurers are so great. We want to hear from you as to what you enjoyed about the show, maybe your favorite memory of the show, something that happened on the show, your favorite episode, just anything you want to say about the show, and we will be bringing it up coming up on our anniversary episode.
Yeah, so please do reach out to us and let us know, or if any of the tips have helped you out or anything.
Well, of course, there'll be Michelle's tips that help you out because she has the best tips.
Yours are great too. But yeah, please do reach out to us. It's been a great interaction. Year one, we're looking forward to continuing this, and we thank everybody.
Right, so much. So if you want to reach out to us, here's the ways you can do it. On social media, we're on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest now at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. And of course, you can always email us, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
So reach out to us, let us know, give us your feedback on any of the episodes. And, as we've said before, please tell a friend. If you get a chance, giving us a review is also well appreciated. Right. Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about that. We really love those people who have already given us reviews this year. Thank you so much. And we look forward, to many more of you telling your friends about us and getting reviews in the future. In the future, you can find us on our website. Please go to our website. We're really trying to spice up the website a little bit more. We're going to have more going on there. So check it out, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. And of course, you can always find us and subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Yes. So that's it for this week. Thanks for that. I know you looked at me and I was like, what? You said it all. You did a great job. I'm sorry. I can't top that. It's the cold medicine. You have to bear with me here. Thanks again for listening to the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We look forward to sharing some time with you again next week. But until that time, I'm Tom. I'm Michelle. And we hope that you have a magical week. Bye.